whistles there, Billy in, the goal, Billy Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Billy's life. Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
Thank you.
And Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted. Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance.
Hello and welcome to episode 191 of the Andy Takes That Chance podcast. We're here after Ben Jackson snaffled an unlikely point for the Terriers at home to Southampton. A much needed but deserved point to match Rotherham to keep the bottom three Blues away for now. Town, though, couldn't keep the booze away as frustration over Darren Moore's style bubbles at the surface at a charged and mostly empty John Smith Stadium. The pod's lower on numbers this week too, but I'm happy to say that I'm joined, as always, by my partner in crime, the cosplayer himself, Mr. Richard Kosmala. And joining us as well is a man who recently turned Grinch to save Christmas for 3 lucky turkeys. It's Ian Kilroy Silk. How are you doing, chaps?
All right, Matt. I've got to admit, though, mate, a bit of my teenage years went today with the sad news of Terry Venables. Honestly, sad times, mate. I mean, it makes you feel old for one, but just Euro 96, I think, for... mate, it's as good as it'll get as an England fan for that. Just the full summer, wasn't it? Well, just made you proud. And what a character he was, mate. Smile on his face. Pull me down if I'm wrong here, but I'm sure he came to Huddersfield, didn't he? We had Palace team and we absolutely smashed him off the park. I could be wrong here. I think we beat him. We had a 4-0. He wanted a 7-1. He wanted a 7-1 even. Oof. You'll have to look up while I kind of talk about him. But yeah, thrown you a curveball there. But yeah, sad, isn't it, mate? What? Teddy Venables. I think he was ahead of his time, mate, wasn't he? I know.
I think you've done a nice segue there, Kosi, because one thing that Terry Venables was famous for, and Killer knows what I'm going to say now because he's got it behind him. He's got his Christmas tree up, and Terry Venables was quite famous for that Christmas tree formation, wasn't he? Pre-Euro 96, when he was pretty much the first England manager to not play 4-4-2 since the 1966 World Cup, and he tried all sorts of different things. I remember when he was suggesting that we could play club teams in friendlies rather than countries in the warm-up, in the warm-ups for Euro 96. It was quite ahead of a lot of other. It was ahead of Graham Taylor, wasn't it? And Graham Taylor's a lovely bloke as well, very likable. But it was a decent manager, Terry Venables, and he was likable as well, wasn't he? He was like you say, Cosy. Town fans love characters, but England fans do as well, don't they? And he was a good character, was Terry Venables, and it was a shame that he was a one tournament man, wasn't he? But yeah, sad news today. It was a good one, and I'm just trying to Google your memories.
It was Steve Coppell, mate. I'm just trying to beat you to it here.
He was Crystal Palace manager in 98-99. So we'll have to have a look at Huddersfield Town 98-99. But Killer, how are you doing? I think the turkey thing needs explaining, doesn't it? I can't just drop that in there, can I? Just saying you save Christmas.
Come on, Matt.
Explain what is going on.
No one needs to open up with a vegan talking about veganism today. So I'll keep it pretty light because no one wants this. But nah, we rescued a few chickens a few months ago, and now we got them from like a factory farm. We got 6 of them, and we're down to 3. And it's pretty hard to bring new chickens into an existing chicken flock because they get a bit fighty because they're pretty vicious chickens, surprisingly. Anyway, so we've gone for some turkeys instead and taken them away from a Christmas table. We got them from up an actual turkey farm, but I just didn't realise how massive they are. They are huge things. It's like having 3 eagles walk around back garden, but they don't go to like a coop on a night, right? They just fall asleep on the floor, and you have to carry them into the shed. But they are massive, and I'm bitten off a bit too much here. So I'll be looking after these for the next 10 years and regretting my decision.
I was serious, mate. It was 4-0, wasn't it, Cosy? A Marcus Stewart hat-trick.
Marcus Stewart hat-trick, mate. Yeah. Our team, Steve Francis, Tom Cowan, Steve Jenkins, Kevin Gray, Rob Edwards, John Dyson, Grant Johnson, David Phillips, Stewart, Facey Allison, subs Beresford Beach. Johnson was a sub. And let's have a look at theirs. Matt Jansen, Lee Bradbury, any other names? Aidan Mullins, he were good.
Andy Linnigan at the back. Yeah.
Morrison on the bench, Safta Kurcic, remember him? Yeah. I
Yeah,
remember
do,
Terry
yeah.
Venables there. We were brilliant that day, but yeah, it's sad
Yeah,
times,
Marcus
man.
Stewart. What a player, Marcus Stewart.
I
Sad time.
know.
Killer. I wasn't joking when I said though that turkeys are distant relations to velociraptors. So watch out there. It's evolution might come back and get you. But let's move on. Let's evolve the podcast as well. And as always, this episode is sponsored by Magic Rock Brewing. Use our code of AHTTC10 for 10% off all online orders. And with Christmas coming up as well, I'm sure you could use that just to get your loved ones drunk over the festive period. You might need it if you support Huddersfield Town. Right, okay, so Huddersfield Town 1, Southampton 1. Let's get into this. I think everybody thought, apart from Brady Frost, everybody thought Southampton were going to turn up and just wipe the floor with us, didn't they? Let's talk first about the injuries and illness that kind of forced Darren Moore's hand. Town, over the international break, played a few behind closed doors friendlies during the international break and seemed to have come away with more injured players than there was before the break started, which is slightly discouraging. Danny Ward apparently reported ill on Friday with flu and was sent home with antibiotics. Darren Moore said post-match that Ward would have started the game. Kyle Hudlin missed through injury. So in comes Kean Harrett, a 5-4-1 system, and the fans could not hide their frustration throughout that first half. And it really boiled over after I think it was about 18 minutes when Town's now 12-month-long injury curse struck again. And off goes poor Kean Harrett with a hamstring injury. Our friend Dr. Bergzorg on the bench, and then on comes Yuta Nakayama, a left back for a striker, and a section of the fans up by me just absolutely lost it. The boos rang out, chants of "you don't know what you're doing" aimed at Darren Moore. I mean, you can understand the frustration, can't you? Because it is shit to watch. You know, when you 11 men behind the ball, whoever you're playing, whether it's a team going for second in the league or a team second bottom, you know, it is, you know, you want to be entertained on a Saturday, and turning up watching your team put 11 men behind the ball, it's sort of soul destroyed, especially when you don't have any outlets and you can't get out. So to bring a left back on, I kind of understood the frustration, but the chants were a little bit silly because players are adaptable these days, aren't they, Killer? You know, Bergzorg wasn't fit enough to play what would have been about 88 minutes at that point as a striker. You know, you've got Karoma, who could only play a certain period without, you know, affecting his hamstring. There was Kasumu on, you know, walking a bit of a tightrope as well with, you know, playing with a slight injury. It was all, I don't know. It just seemed a bit. I don't think it was really. I think when you think about it a bit more, it's not so much that one decision, is it? At Darren Moore, it's just 12 months of this, isn't it? Really, with that kind of football, and I know the people it's spilling over a bit and aimed at Darren Moore, but it's just all a bit. It's just a bit naff in it. But you know, the substitutions, like I say, players are adaptable, aren't they? Karoma moved up front, Nakayama moved to the left wing back, and Jimahim Headley can play on the wing, and he moved to the right wing at one point, which was a little bit different as well for him. I mean, the changes worked out okay, but you can kind of understand the frustrations, but also think it's a bit unnecessary at the same time, don't you think?
Well, Bergzorg's obviously not fit enough for the amount of time that were left. I think that was pretty clear because I'd have expected him to come on if they thought he could do the full game. But I understand the frustration. I do understand it because it still feels to me, and the best way to describe it is like we're a small club in League Two going away to a championship club in an FA Cup game, and we're just trying to hold on, and we're at home. And Southampton, okay, you can say they're a bigger club, been in the Premier League for so long. But they're equal to yesterday. They're equal. They're in our same division, and we're at home. And we're supposed to be the aggressor. To come out of the first half there with an 81% possession, and now I can't. That must be, Matt. You're more statistical than everybody else. That must be the lowest home possession we've had in the Championship, surely, in a full half, because that's unbelievable to me to just surrender possession like we have done. So I understand
was 0.03, which I think was pretty bad as well.
So I understand the frustration because it doesn't feel like you're the home team, does it, when that's how you set up? And fans are already they're kind of already ready to jump on Darren Moore's back and the newer ownership's back if something goes wrong, and being forced into that substitution where realistically I don't think Darren Moore could have done much different at that point in the game yesterday. But I can't pretend I don't understand the frustration because I do. And if I'd have been there yesterday, I'd have been pretty open and vocal about it as well. I thought the situation that we find ourselves in now, where we can't fill a bench, and 18 minutes into a home game in November, we don't have a striker to bring on to replace the only 9 we've got left. It isn't a normal situation for a football club to find himself in this situation at this point of the season, I don't think.
No, you get it as well, don't you? Because it's a build up, isn't it? It's successive failures. We keep saying this, don't we? It's a build up of successive failures from previous regimes, and the previous regime to the previous regime, even if you like, to Kevin Nagel. And the summer was disappointing in terms of transfers. And I know they've said that they were under FFI restrictions, financial fair play restrictions, but not financial fair play, but more FFI rather than FFP. And I'm not going to go into that right now because we'll be here for half an hour. But you get the frustration, don't you? But there's also a situation as well, Kosi, where I think you have to kind of take stock of the situation Huddersfield Town are in. We had something like 45% players out injured the other week. I haven't done a tally this week. We're against Southampton. Okay, Killer said we're equals, and we are, but they've got £20 million players. And a great tweet from you yesterday was, they've got a £20 million whatever Che Adams international on the bench, and we can't even fill ours. And it just shows what we've up against, wasn't it? Really, yesterday, and the situation at Huddersfield Town is it's frustrating, and it's kind of our own making at the same time. But it's not entirely of the making of the manager who's having to deal with the hand he's been given.
We spilled over a lot. What I didn't get is that Watford were absolute shite. Everyone were like, that were fantastic, and we did exactly the same there. It's like this were totally legit in my eyes, where if we'd have gone toe-to-toe with them like we did with Leeds, we were 4-0 down after 36 minutes. Well, obviously, we were going to set up like that. And, I just think people were like, it should be Bergson, but he knows who's fit and who in. But you can't suppose really have a go because he's absolutely freezing. Sounds like, obviously, I watched it on the TV, Matt, and to be fair, it looked quite full, but obviously you said it won probably the lowest crowd that we've had for a while on a Saturday. So kind of the people that have had enough and more weren't even there. And the people that were there, it was like, well, I've turned up there and God, this is happening as well. But yeah, frustrating. I mean, the people on Saints TV or whatever it's called there, they were quite shocked with it because I think like probably I were thinking it's like, well, hang on a minute, mate, you're playing Southampton who you're going to have all the ball. This is how it's going to pan out, and you might sneak something on the breaks. So we're always going to happen with that. They were just wow, they couldn't believe it. And obviously, Russell Martin just always comments at the end. They were like, he was so mad because the crowd had gone. He said the crowd had gone. They'd gone on the team. So it was almost like Southampton. So we're kind of not helping the situation, but like it's really hard to criticise people who paid them when they've got out in the cold. And it's that, but I just look around and thinking that it was our embarrassment when that team were put out. It's just what's going on. And if you think wind the game on to the end, obviously we're going to discuss the rest of it. We've lost 2 more players. It's just like we might get Ward back if he's kind of ill. Unbelievable goalkeeper. No one saw that coming out. That. Although he had a good game in Matt, so I'll probably talk about him later. But just seems if it can go wrong, it is going wrong for Darren Moore. I find it really difficult to tear into him because it's almost like that. Someone else could come in and do something totally radical and different than that as well, which, again, what it any much different under Warnock, though? It's just like some people just seem to forget this. Like we were like 22% possession in games all the time there and that as well. But for some reason, when Moore goes that way, if Warnock could deliver that masterclass yesterday, bringing all them mad subs on down to the bare bones and snaffled a 1-1 against a team that probably 8 times our budget, it'd be like a legend. But Moore, no one gives him the credit. But I'm not a big fan of him, Matt, but I thought it was a bit of an overreaction. But then again, it's hard to criticise people who are just used to losing football for pretty much 5-6 seasons on the bounce.
To answer your point, question, Killer, have we had a lower percentage? Yes, we have. And it was under Neil Warnock against Blackburn last season. I've just pulled it up. We had 19% possession in the entire game against Blackburn. But I'll caveat that by saying we were winning quite earlier on and quite happy to sit back and let them have it. But, it's different circumstances, isn't it, for different things. So, yes, we will have done against Blackburn, but we were winning the game, so we were trying to see it out. So, there you go. But Cos right. There were a lot of. I think the difference between the Darren Moore and Neil Warnock stuff is under Neil Warnock, there were moments where, let's talk about the first half in particular. Huddersfield were penned in. We never seem to get out or be able to get out, and it just seems like the pressure just constantly cranks up and increases and increases. Under Neil Warnock, there were certain trigger points whereby the pressure would be taken off. There'd be a direct ball into the corner and a striker would chase it, would win the ball higher up. And there were like little things where we were never completely penned in, whereas under Fotheringham this time last year, and and a little bit under Darren Moore recently, we've been like the whole game. We were completely penned in for the majority of it without that out ball, and it just kind of feels like it's only a matter of time before it happens and they score and then they win the game. And it was only a matter of time in the first half until Southampton scored just before half time. I've got to be honest, I had my head in my phone. I was so bored. I had my head in my phone, so I kind of half missed the build up to it. I just saw him put it.
Matt, I thought it was a favour Keane Harrop coming off. I did.
He can't play up front by himself.
I just don't think, for me, he's an impact man off the bench. I just don't see kind of. It's nice to see him get a chance, and he's only there probably because there's no one else. But I just don't. He's always coming back. It's almost like it's like having 10 men on and stuff like that as well. And so I didn't have that much of a big issue with that. It was kind of Nakayama because I knew there'd be something kind of done differently, which was as well. But I think some people just see it a striker for a defender and boo, which obviously
that's what players are flexible and adaptable these days. They can play a number of different positions, can't they? And for me, Karoma up front is a better option than Harrop because he can't hold the. Yeah, he did. Ian Harrop can't hold the ball up. It's just not what he's good at this moment in time. He may be in 18 months, but at the moment, he lost pretty much every time. Every challenge with a defender when the ball went forward, he pretty much lost every time. But you know, he's obviously not quite right because his hamstrings twanged after 18 minutes, and you've got to sort of ask the question. And maybe we asked it a few weeks ago. You know, you've got this injury jinx. Jimmy Headley's gone off with what looks like a soft tissue injury as well. Kasumu limped off, and Kasumu's just come back, obviously, and he was limping 10 minutes before he went off, or he looked like he was limping, or whether he's just got a really cool walk, I don't know.
But he's another game midweek.
I know, and you just wonder if this is down to training intensity or just bad luck. I'm not sure what it is because Neil Warnock's come in for hammer, hasn't he, by successive managers for players not being fit, hasn't he? And so you just wonder if Darren Moore's come in and gone, these players aren't fit, and he's cranked it up, and all of a sudden soft tissue injuries are going, or whether it's just bad luck because there's a lot of, I was going to say there's a lot of games in the Championship, but we've just had 2 weeks off and ended up with more players injured. So you do start to wonder
Matt, do you not think it's a little bit to do with not having the ball? Because when you aren't in possession, you are defending a lot. It's panic station football, isn't it? And you're not dictating play, so your movements are very different when you don't have the ball because you're reacting to the other team. And when we're giving up so much possession all the time, that's when you get your little tweaks because you're overstretching to try and get a tackle in or to try and intercept. And I think that's a really important thing to consider as well. So it's not only the overtraining, it's that when we don't have the ball, and when you don't have the ball, that's when you have to work harder to get it back. And that's why Kasuma was getting little injuries there, and Harriet with his press, although realistically, he wasn't that much of a press yesterday in that first half. But I think that's another big factor, a big factor in it that a lot of people often miss.
Trouble is, fans ain't going to have it because imagine if we played this style. So, Nakayama passes it back to Pearson, and then he slides it to Lees, and then it goes to Headley, and then it goes back to Lee. Boo! Get on me, get it up. So they're just that's what it is. So if we had a Russell Martin in charge of us, they'd be yell on, man. I know some people fly back at me saying, "Oh, yeah, but they play in the right position." But theirs is slow build up as well, but obviously a bit more forward than ours. But I just don't know. I just think it's where I mean, Corcoran, though, even to a certain extent, was quite a bit of that. I get we were winning football, but I remember that Luton semi-final players, and there were people proper getting on. Like Pearson's back, I remember for one sliding it back to keeper when we were trying to hang on to Lee, and it's just like, honestly, it's just really weird. It's psychological. It almost feels like people, like there's a manager, forget the Warnock thing. It's like someone else could come in and it would be better. And I just can't see it with who's out there, the injury crisis. And I get Darren Moore's not exactly extravagant football, but I just don't see it. Who is this man? It's Slackmore now. It's breaking news on Sky. He's gone. Who then? Who's? And all of a sudden, we're just going to start. I just can't see it. I cannot see it. Without players in, I just don't see any, whether it's injured players going back on new signings. I think this is just how it is. But it's hard to slack fans because it's just years of frustration and underinvestment. It's just blowing up. And I wonder what Jake Edwards must think. It's like they've come here and Kevin Edwards think, Jesus Christ, I thought we'd come to a place that were, and it's like
position of strength, mate.
Obviously, they did say, Matt, like you said to me, because we were talking about this during the week, that this season's going to be a tough one. We're working it out. Moore's coming. We need to find out who we're bringing in and out. Obviously, the window didn't go probably according to plan, so it's kind of bear with us. But no, people are bearing with anyone. And it's
no. But this is the thing, though. If it was like one season, I think people would. But it's like 4 of the last 5, isn't it? I think that's what it is. I think it just grinds people down, doesn't it? And people get fed up, and I think some patience needs to be applied at certain times, but I think other times, I think showing displeasure when it's crap is just part and parcel of football, and it's fine. I think you look at some of the bigger clubs, and you look at you go to Spain, cause if they get the white handkerchiefs out, don't they, and all sorts, and go absolutely berserk over there.
The only thing is that, man,
You get protests outside the ground and all sorts.
We don't ask for a lot, but it just showed in that last half hour when, let's be honest, it was hardly Guardiola stuff, but we just got behind a defensive.
It was up and at them, wasn't it? I think that's fine.
And then I remember when we were like equalised, someone must have got. I can't remember what got behind, but the crowd like, God, it sounded like with 20,000 in there. So it just shows we're not asking for a lot. It's almost like give us a bit of excitement, just a bit of go forward kind of football. It's almost like I'm contradicting myself, kind of argument, but it's just on the other side of it. We're not asking for like 50, 60, 70, 80% possession. We're just asking for like something to get us off our seats.
But that's what Warnock had, Kosi. Warnock, when we attacked under Neil Warnock, had specific plays, and you could see it. You could see there were players running to the back post, front post, and a late run into the penalty spot. There was plays I think you could see, and that's what fans were excited about. Like Matt said, we turned the field around, we moved it up. So it isn't just dominating possession. It was just that when we got the ball, it looked like we knew what we were doing. And I'll be honest, when I see us get the ball now, it looks like Mark Fotheringham football. It looks like we don't have much of an idea to break forward. And now that's understandable considering Mo's only been here a few weeks and we were shipping goals for fun. I understand defence first football after Leeds. We were all there. It was horrific. I get it. But I think fans just want it now to flip pretty quickly so that at least when we do attack, we know what we're doing. And I just don't see it yet. Even yesterday in the second half, which we'll get onto again in a bit, it's not specific players getting us anywhere other than whipping the balls in as quick as we can from Sorba Thomas. There's still not much patterns of play yet. And I expected us to work on that over international break. But yesterday might not be the game to see it. Maybe Sunderland is or the weekend coming up. I don't know. But I think that's the difference, isn't it? It's just that when we do attack, it doesn't look like we have much of a plan yet. And maybe in time we will do.
I think one thing that sums that up, Killer, is under Neil Warnock, we got men in the box, didn't we? We had Matty Pearson popping up in the box with goals. We had Radoni in the box with goals. We don't have Radoni at the minute, which is a big loss. But we got people in the box. And yesterday, there was a moment in the first half where Nakayama I think we broke away down the left, and Nakayama looked up to cross the ball into the box. And there were about 7 Southampton players to 1 of ours. So he turned around and knocked it backwards. And the crowd went ballistic. But it was the right thing to do because it's 1 versus 7. You know what I mean? What is he going to do? But the crowd are going mental. But I don't really think they're just going mental at Nakayama. They're going mental at the situation there, going, why are there not men in the box? Why is he not crossing it to 3-4, unrushing players? And it's that which kind of kills that. That's the difference between what we had under, the 20% possession football under Neil Warnock and the 20% under Darren Moore so far, is that a Neil Warnock side would have had 3-4 players, rushing into the box. We probably wouldn't have scored because we didn't score a lot of goals, but the ball doesn't go backwards. And I think eventually the players got really jittery with the crowd reaction and ended up passing it back to Chris Maxwell, and then they went mental again. And again, you kind of understand it, but again, I find it hard to. I'm not a Darren Moore fan, never have been. I always think I've said it. I say it every week. I've always feel like he underachieves to. Slightly underachieves what he perhaps should have done so far. But I find it hard to really go in on him because of the situation that we're in. If we had a full strength team, we had Danny Ward fit, and he's gone with a 3-4-3 or something, and a genuine 3-4-3, and we get battered or we look tactically ridiculous, then yeah, I'll have a go. But I just find it difficult with half a squad out injured, and it's a tiny squad at that, to sort of really pull him to bits on it. And I kind of feel a bit sorry for him in some ways, because I just feel the hand he's got at the minute is.
Well, I'm not, because I think even if he
hasn't made it easier for him. He hasn't endeared himself in a lot of ways, has he? Which that I think town fans are, like Kosi says, they're big on the media, aren't they, and characters, and he's very evasive and dull. So that side of things hasn't come across well, and then his football kind of mirrors it again. So it's hard to warm to what's going on, and I get it. But I just, until he's got a full strength squad to pick from, I'm going to just sort of sit back on it and try and assess from where we are rather than where we should be, if you know what I mean. Go on, Kosi.
Yeah, it's just it's starting to wear me down a little bit now. Just like because I feel like I'm sometimes like having to go at Warnock to, but all the time. But it's because like the people who just won't have more will always just to bring Warnock into every argument. It's making me sad because it's almost like I'm trying to point out when he was a bit shit under Warnock. It's almost like I'm trying to knock what he did, and I loved it as much as anyone as well. But they just won't give him anything, though, Matt. It's just they won't give him any chance whatsoever, and it's really sad. I mean, I noticed last night, like the people that have been so vocal, the replying, on the club shop stuff and all this, like having a go. There were no one really like, oh, what a great point, or come back, get in their town and stuff like that as well. It's not, and they're getting the knife. They'll just be waiting with the knives out, ready for the Stadium of Light on Wednesday night and that as well. I just don't. I think we you Killer, wasn't it? Did we do Leeds together? I can't remember where Leeds put together. Where you said, I don't think he'll ever get the fans back. It just even that one in the bad, obviously in a desperate game there, you didn't expect him on side there. But even I know it wasn't a win yesterday, but I were hoping to see some, considering who were out and where we were losing, but no, nothing at all. And you can guarantee it'll be back out again.
I did catch some of his post-match interview when I got back in the car, Kosi, and Darren Moore has said he doesn't want to play like they did say. Do you think I'd be playing like this if I had a full-strength squad and stuff? So, that's why I'm going to sit on it. And when he's got a full-strength squad and a few players in, then we'll see how it is. But let's talk about the second half, because I thought we played all right second half. I quite enjoyed it. I hated the first half, and I hated every second of the whole City game and most of what went before it. But actually I don't know whether it's just because that was so bad that I quite enjoyed the Southampton game, but the second half, sorry. But I quite enjoyed it. I was quite pleased with what I saw. I thought Sorba Thomas was decent. He's full of energy. I thought he worked really hard. I thought Jahim Headley played well.
It's a shame that
he should have scored. Yeah, he should have scored, to be fair, Thomas. But he played well. I thought he played really well. I thought Jahim Headley played quite well further forward as well. I thought the one thing I perhaps would mention is that the fact that the goal, obviously goals change games, Killer, like you mentioned, that goal before halftime's allowed us to come out and be a bit more forthright, if you like. But do you think as well that on the other side of that, do you think that the way we played in the second half, okay, like Kosi says, it wasn't Pep Guardiola football or anything, but do you think that maybe vindicates some of the frustration of the fans as well? Because we did actually come out and get into Southampton, press them higher up, cause a lot of issues, and they were really struggling to play out properly from the back. And you think back to the Ipswich game as well, where they were a team that played out from the back, and we got high in, and we pressed them quite high up the pitch, and we had a lot of joy from that. And then we did the same thing in the second half, and you kind of think, well, half of you thinks, okay, we've got all these injuries and we understand the situation, but with Karoma, Thomas, and Headley, you've got three people there are quite quick and good at pressing, and we got quite into them. And we had a lot of joy from that. And Kasumu and Hogg picked up quite a lot of second balls, didn't they, from them giving it away. And we'll talk about them as well, in particular towards the end. But do you think that kind of vindicates some of the frustration in the first half, or is it just a case?
I do.
Yeah,
I think the containment, that first containment we tried to play in the first half, I think we just offered Southampton too much respect. Like we were talking before we recorded here, Southampton have conceded only 2 fewer goals than us this season, and we're atrocious at the back. They aren't a team that you can't create chances against. You can, but you're not going to create a chance if you only start pressing when you're 35 yards from your own goal, because that's what we did in the first half. We were so deep. I honestly can't remember us being so deep from the off in a game at home before. It wasn't only that, like we played with the back five to start off with, didn't we? Like it was such a narrow back five.
Yeah. I took a picture, and it's literally a flat five with 4 narrow in midfield as well.
Within the half spaces were 9 defensive play outfielders for us, and then a striker 35 yards. Well, depending if you call him a striker, Karoma 35 yards away from goal. That's as deep as we started a press. And then second half we went to a back 3 because we've got nothing to lose at that point. And it is important you can't. It'd be remiss of me to sit here and say no, we're fantastic in that second half. If we did that from the off, we'd have won the game. It'd have been a totally different game because Southampton would have come at us a bit more. When you've got a team like Southampton that do concede goals pretty easily, when you are away from home and you're 1-0 up and you're a possession-based team, you aren't going to press that high yourself then. You're going to sit back, you're going to try and say, right, we'll keep what we've got, and hopefully let's try and learn how to not concede goals against a team that's a lesser team in this division. So you expected them to kind of do it, and we had to have a goal. We had nothing to lose at that point, and it was much better. It was much, much better. And it just showed you that if you just have some sort of control press further upfield, and like you said, Matt, with Sorba Thomas, Healy and Karoma, I don't actually think you need much extra press there from Kasumu and Hogg. I think those three alone, in the right way, can do enough to create chances, and they did. That's what happened. And I just wish we'd have done it earlier on in the first half, because the second half shows that up front we have a bit of something in press. We're not going to play nice football. We're not going to create amazing chances, but I think we've got enough there to be able to pressurise teams into mistakes if we have a go. And as soon as we started it yesterday, that's why we look like a totally different team for me. And it was an enjoyable second half to watch.
Yeah, I agree completely with that. Cos, I think I want to talk about.
I think the thing is, though,
Kasumu
Matt,
and Hogg.
like following on from Killer, just energy, mate. I think the place is just devoid of energy. Like Ben Jackson's all right, we know, defensively, don't just play his strengths, mate. And it was brilliant, mate. We're bombing forward. I was chuffed with his goal.
We'll talk about Jackson, yeah.
But it's just the dynamic he'll give to the stands, and then they kind of and the crowd did start then to get behind, especially when we, equalised. But even leading up to that, there was something to cling on to. But I think it's just that, because everything's just in slow mo, and obviously, honestly, we're just talking about small things here. How we just like speed and getting forward, and it's just. You think when we're doing them pods under Cobra and like when we were winning and stuff, it just honestly how far we've gone back. But amazing we're above that dotted line. But anyway, Matt, go on, mate.
I think that's one of the main things, isn't it? We matched Rotherham got a good result, didn't they, at home to Leeds, a point, and we matched it against a team similar. Southampton would have gone third if they'd have won the game. So matched it, and David Wagner's finally done us a favour. Thanks, Dave. By with Norwich beating QPR. Although I looked at the stats at that game, and QPR looked like they should have perhaps got something out of that.
Coventry and Plymouth, Matt. Do you think again it's just going to be 3 out of 4, or is it too early to say that? It probably is too early now. Oh, does it?
Well, Birmingham have not exactly done great under Rooney, and when they were losing against Sheffield Wednesday, they were one place above us, and they dropped from 6th to one place above us. So I think that might be one to keep an eye on, but they've got money there, so they'll probably pull away in January as well. But yeah, three from 4, but. I think if we do well in January and bring key players in, I think, and we'd get it right, then I think the 3 might be done. Just depends if anyone plays that Warnock wild card, don't they, in sort of January, February time. And I think QPR might do that. So that's one to watch. So I don't know whether it would be a good thing for QPR to start winning some games and then drop down when it's a bit too late. I'm not sure, but we'll see. Maybe we should just win some games and then we'll stop worrying about these things. I'll tell you what we'll do now. We'll roll in. I spoke to Alex Graham from the Total Saints podcast, and I thought I'd get their view on the game as well, because it's always interesting to hear it from an away point of view. So I'll roll in that now.
Stereotypical game of 2 halves at Huddersfield yesterday. Felt that Saints completely dominated the first half, with Huddersfield sitting very, very deep and challenging us to break you down, which we struggled to do. It took 35 minutes really for us to have any sort of concerted pressure on your goal. We had the shot from Stuart Armstrong that hit the post, then the shot from Smallbone from the edge of the box, which the keeper saved in somewhat erratic looking fashion, but he saved it. That's the most important thing. Shooting from the edge of the box is something we need to do far more often. And then the goal came, which was a really good finish from the otherwise anonymous Adam Armstrong. So 1-0 at half time, and the word I keep going back to whenever I think about this game is complacency. I think we thought we could just turn up in the second half and the same would happen again. It was almost like we didn't think Huddersfield were capable of sort of upping their game or doing anything different to what they did in the first half, but fair play. They basically stepped 10 yards further up the pitch by the look of it. And we started the second half really sloppily with giving away possession a couple of times on the halfway line, which led to a couple of corners. And I think it gave Huddersfield belief that they could get something out of the game. And as the game wore on, with I think we had one shot from Edozie, and you had that free header with the guy with the hairdo, can't remember his name, sorry, who put it wide at the back post. I thought we were going to hang on because I didn't think Huddersfield had that sort of moment of quality to make any possession count. And eventually the goal, when it comes, it's a little bit fortunate because it's a cross, but I can't argue that Huddersfield didn't deserve a point from the game. Saints simply didn't do enough second half to warrant the 3 points. We nearly got it, we nearly got to the end, but ultimately I think a draw was a fair result, and fair play to Huddersfield for keeping going, and good luck for the rest of the season.
There we go. I think that's fair enough. A fair summary, like you say.
It's not like you were walking back to Southampton, didn't it?
I didn't know if he was out for a run or
Yeah.
or whether he was walking the dog or whatnot. But it's always nice to hear the other side, isn't it? And I think
It is.
I think so far this season, I think pretty much everybody has nailed it from who we've spoken to. And he's probably said in like I always say this every week. He's probably called it in 2 minutes there than what we've done in 30 odd so far. So fair enough. But let's just talk about individuals now, because I want to talk about Ben Jackson, because this has been a really good rise for Ben Jackson. We look back to last season, and I remember Neil Warnock saying he thought Ben Jackson would be one of the ones who'd be being sold, but he kind of proved himself, didn't he, in the Cornwall trip, and then kind of clung on, and he's kind of been clinging on for a couple of years now without really breaking through, and he's found himself in a really unusual position of right back. And sometimes this is what happens, doesn't it? A young player ends up playing in an unfamiliar-ish position, although right back, left back, potato, he can use both feet. But he's found it. The young player will find themselves in an unusual position, and they'll just run with it. And that's what he's done so far. He's been really good since, I'd probably say, the Watford game, since he's come in, and Ben Jackson's had a really good, a decent month. And when the Blue and White Foundation Player of the Month comes up, I imagine he'll get quite a lot of votes. And it's good to see. A mate of mine brought Ben Jackson to Huddersfield at the age of 14 from the Stockport boys, and it's just really good to see him take the opportunity now and push on. He did a lot of things which I really liked. I think my criticism of some of the young players, not so much criticism, but more of an observation, is that I think sometimes they just need to take the bull by the horns a little bit more and force their way in. And I feel like he's done that recently. Hit a lot of cross. I think playing right back kind of suits him in a lot of ways, because he can use. He is ambi-footed, if that's the right term. But he also is able to cut in and then hit crossfield. He switched play really well on several occasions with some really good crossfield balls. He can get forward. I was slightly worried that when you play a back five, he'd be just playing right back, but he's bombing forward as well. There were a couple of nice combinations with Sorba and then Jaheim Headley. I think it's going really well, Killer.
I like him. I think he's really, really good. I think he's really benefited from us having a small squad, really, and being given the opportunity to know that there's no one else that can really play after Tom Edwards' performance at Leeds. It's going to be Ben Jackson at right back every time, isn't it, for the foreseeable future, because there's no one else really available. You can see him learning on the job. He's much better in attack. I still think in defence yesterday, going quickly back to the game, I think he was at fault for the goal. There was a dummy run and he follows the striker back into midfield. And when you play the way we do, you have to be perfect for 90 minutes to not concede. And with him following the dummy run, the space behind him, and Southampton took advantage of that. But that's what you have to play at this level to learn. And he definitely is the kind of guy that you never see make the same mistake twice. And the more he plays, the more confidence I have in him to be a first-team player for us. And it's just nice. I know you say he came from Stockport under 14s, but you still consider him one of our own, don't you? And that's another thing Town fans like. When he's like that and he's giving it his all, we all get behind it. It's just nice to see him get to get the equaliser yesterday. It wasn't the most amazing of finishes, so I can't really call it a finisher. I'm going to go down there. It's an obvious cross, but yeah. It's nice. It's nice to see him doing well, because I think he was a bit of a victim of his own versatility for a while with us, wasn't he? He was playing here, there, and everywhere. Yeah. And as you're trying to learn your trade in professional football, that's the last thing you want. You can't say no to it. Of course, you're a team player, but then you're the first one to be left out when the person who you're replacing comes back in. And now I think it's just nice for him to really put a stamp on that right back or right wing back position, because there's not really anyone else available who can do it. So he's really taken that opportunity yesterday, I think. And he's not the first name on the sheet, but he's pretty quick on there on there for Wednesday for me anyway.
Yeah, beautiful. I remember going to a meeting a couple of years ago, and my friend, of course, you come and speak to Ben Jackson's mum and blah, blah. And I got chatting. I think she listened to the pod or something. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, fantastic. And obviously, when you consider it all, none of the wing backs got forward. It was just nice and refreshing yesterday to see him, obviously, like you said, Killer, maybe nothing to lose because we were 1 down as well. And a beautiful moment. I know a cross-country shot, but it was just as soon as you hit it and you could see it bounce, I thought, it's going in, is this? You know, like that beautiful moment where it's agony if it's against you, but brilliant for it. I thought the keeper's not getting it. It's going in. And yeah, brilliant. And look what it meant to him. He's an asset, mate. I'm not saying you're worried about him if you're Tony Mowbray on Wednesday or, you know, next week at Swansea, but it's like his energy, his pace, his crossing and crossfield balls and stuff. He's getting into areas now, and the crossing's quite good. So there's definitely stuff to build. I think if you're a coach at Huddersfield, working with him now, I think you've got to be energised, and he's got to play his way into Darren Moore's plans as well. Obviously, Turton Cat hopefully not too far away, but all of a sudden this kind of challenges, coming in for that position. And yeah, you surely Tom Edmonds has probably seen his last game for Huddersfield after Leeds. But yeah, lovely moment, mate. And nice to see him on the score sheet. And yeah, expect him to be on the team sheet on Wednesday, unless he's not one of those that's injured.
No, keep it up, Ben Jackson. I was trying to pull out some meaningful stats on his performance, but I think with having 19% possession, it's probably difficult to do so. But
Thomas, Matt, because I was saying I'm not seeing people budging on the stance with Darren Moore. I am seeing some of my fiercest critics, friends, budging on Sorba Thomas, which is making me really happy, mate. It's brilliant to see.
Yeah, I was going to say Ben Jackson made the most tackles out of every Town player yesterday. That was one thing. So keep it up, Ben. But Sorba, I thought him and Headley played quite well.
I thought he were done. I thought he were finished, mate.
Yeah, and just as he'd started to turn the corner, he had that interview, didn't he, where he pretty much described Town fans as background noise that he don't listen to, and it was, I mean, he's right in one way, but it's like you say it a little bit. You say it a little bit nicer, but I've always been an advocate of Sorba, and we were saying a couple of weeks ago that he's gone from just being a set piece it's like hockey, isn't it, where you roll on a set piece player and then roll them back on. If you've ever
his fitness is outstanding, Matt. He must be the fittest man in Huddersfield Town. There's charging runs, it never stops. He's relentless, mate.
Yeah, he's been great. I think he's been great. And he's improving, which is where I was going with that. I had a coughing fit 2 minutes ago, and I'm still not quite over it. My voice is.
I said have a coffee with him. I thought, go on, lad.
I'd have a coffee with him if he wants. Yeah, I'd love a chat with Sorba Thomas. I'm sure we'd have a great time. But I've always been an advocate of his, and I'm pleased that he's turning a few minds around. But I still have seen when we've said he's playing well, and people have gone, "Oh yeah, he's only doing it because he's playing for a move in January." It's just like, come on, just give him a moment. Come on. But he's been great. I thought Headley was good as well. I like Jaheim Headley. I think there's a lot there to like about him. I mean, the booking was silly. I couldn't believe the referee booked Kasuma. I thought that was one of those most stupid, ridiculous bookings. He blew the whistle, and Kasuma was pretty much halfway through a pass, and he just knocked it, and he booked him for kicking the ball away. And I just thought the ref was crap, to be honest. But the one I don't think Jaheim Headley could complain too much because he.
The only thing with that Headley thing, Matt, he went down, and I'm thinking. Straight away, grabbing all of his leg, it's like cramp. And he obviously won't. It's like, fucking hell, guys. It's like, you could have fucked him up there. God, sorry for my language, but it's like, what are we doing? Because I thought it's cramp, it gets up, but then he don't. And then it's like, they just put holding the back of his leg. I'm just thinking, wow, it's just scary, mate. It's amateur medics there. Just leave it to the pros. As soon the weird now, because everyone's mic'd up, and then as soon as that guy were like down there, like, and he were down for a bit and talking, I thought, he's done. And yeah.
Do you know what was really weird in that? And I found it. Southampton were quite happy to put the ball out of play for us as well. And we had they did it for Kean Harrett, and they did it for Headley as well. And they were in good positions when they did it. If that was Town and the other way, you'd be going mad, wouldn't you? Going, what? Bloody leave him down. Get on with it. But I thought that was. But maybe that's just us. Been knobheads, but I thought I was quite surprised Southampton did that. But yeah, great performances. Nakayama, I thought, played quite well as well when he came on.
I've been just going back to that guy we're talking, the anonymous Samsung. He worked his arse off, that guy, mate. I get he didn't have many chances, but great goal. But he would track him back, mate. He was like another defender for them. He would proper work his bollocks off. I think he must be hard to please. That
Armstrong.
he must be judging him on goals, but I can't believe it. Went everywhere like a rash over our players, mate. He would, yeah.
Armstrong. He's a good player. I like him, mate. Yeah, I've always liked him. Good player. Good player. But yeah, Nakayama decent as well. I think the main criticisms of him from me have always been like physicality. You know, when he gets a nudge or a push, but he dealt with that really well yesterday. I know Saints aren't the most aggressive team, but I thought he played really well. And when he gets on the ball, he's probably the best passer of a football at Huddersfield Town. Well, I don't say probably, he is the best passer of a football at the minute, isn't he? And I thought he did a lot of good things again at left wing back. Chris Maxwell as well. I'm still a bit annoyed at the whole Bilokovic situation because I thought Bilokovic could have gone on to be a decent asset for us, a valuable asset. But nothing against Chris Maxwell, who I think's as good as it gets, really, as a number 2 in this, that we could get in this league. He came in and he did well, didn't he? He made 1 or 2 decent saves. One was like he mentioned on the Southampton fan mentioned, was maybe a little bit eccentric, wasn't it? It went straight down his throat. But he did well. And Chris Maxwell's a keeper that I've always thought was decent. I remember him at Preston, and I thought he was decent at Preston. So he came in, did his job, and that's what you want from a number 2, just to come in.
His feet, Matt, no.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people saying his distribution was really good, but I didn't notice it, to be honest, at the time. And I've looked at the stats, and he's got a 40% accuracy, so I'm not overly sure if the distribution was good or whether it's just because he went long quite a lot, and the strikers weren't going to win it.
They said that Nichols will, but now I've read he's got an injury on it.
It's a neck injury. Yeah, he's pulled a muscle in his neck or something, I think.
That won't be.
It was Danny Ward was ill, and Nichols did his neck. And Ben Wiles is a hamstring issue.
Well, there's a shock, mate. He's not been fit for the whole season, really. And
no, he had that bad injury at Rotherham 12 months ago, and I think he's had a lot of niggles. I think that's what happens, isn't it? When you get a serious injury, the muscles don't work quite correctly around the injury, so you get a lot of referred pain and hamstring issues and niggles and thighs and all sorts. Me and Killer speak from experience, don't we, on bloody injuries as footballers. I knackered my ankle. I think, Killer, you've done all sorts.
I've done everything, but it's that you change your walk as well while you're injured. The longer you're out for, you can change everything, and then when you get back playing, it does take a year or two to come good off. For me, it never returned, but I'm not sure I ever had it in the first place. But it's just you're going to get this in that. That's why it's always such a danger signing a player after a major injury. I don't think Town have ever had a good record since Robbie Williams came in that lovely trade deal a fair few years ago.
We'll sell you Gary Taylor Fletcher if you don't sign Robbie Williams, but we'll sign him with a broken leg. That was classic Town, wasn't it, from back in the day? Signing a player with a broken leg. Amazing.
This season's bad enough as it is, Matt. We don't need to go back there, do we?
It's just brilliant, wasn't it? But what times? I suppose when you think we've moved forward, at least we don't sign players with broken legs anymore yet. We'll see what January brings, but I'm sure we've moved on from that. But Robbie Williams was. I was going to say Robbie Williams was all right, but he was good at free kicks and so at times, but a little bit. We'll move on. But one thing I wanted to talk about was David Kasumu and Hogg. Do you think that pivot, the way we're playing at the minute, do you think that is a better pivot in midfield than one that involves Rodoni or Ben Wiles? Because I think it maybe enables Rodoni or Wiles to be more forward thinking when they come back into the team. And I mean, Kasumu and Hogg, I think Kasumu's got the ability to be Hogg 2.0 if he learns a bit more. He needs to play a lot more and stay injury free. That's the thing with him. But he's just got the pace that Hogg doesn't have. Hogg gets kind of not being critical of Hogg, but at his age now, people kind of ghost past him a little bit. But he's there. His organisation is always in positioning. He's always exemplary as when you watch him. But do you think that's a better pivot when we're defensive and we've got 20% possession? Would you say that is a better central midfield than one that has Rodoni or Wiles in it, for example?
I think Kasuma's class. I think the way he can drive the ball out of through the thirds now. Wagner used to talk about Moy being able to speed the game up and slow it down a little bit. He used to control how Town played. And while Kasuma was nowhere near that level, I feel like he's the only guy we have that can transition while we have the ball through the midfield. Diarra likes to get it and run with it, but then never kind of gets that final ball away. But Kasumu he's got a nice bit of pace and direction. Like if he gets it and turns it and moves forward, it really helps us. And I don't think we have anybody else that can do it.
A bit like O'Brien used to do. O'Brien used to do similar.
That's probably a much better comparison than a.
I've never known anyone win as many fouls because, like I say, he just drives the ball out. He gets fouled all the time by doing that. He'll always get you up the pitch and a breather as well. And
it's because he controls his pace when he dribbles it. So he's got quite a fast dribble, but then he can slow it down. And then as soon as the tackle's coming in, he speeds it back up. Now, Sorba Thomas does it as well. But for a centre midfielder to do it as well as David Kasumu is pretty rare for me. The talent is there with him. He is such a good player, but as we know, it's just his injury record. But then again, if he didn't have this kind of injury record, would he be with us now anyway? That's kind of one of the questions you have to throw at it. But I think, to me, our strongest centre midfield involves David Kasumu in it.
I think so. I think Hogg and Kasuba, and I'd have, Radoni maybe just above, in front of them in a 3. I think that would be. I think that's quite a decent midfield, to be fair. I mean, Hogg, bless him. We probably should have brought in a replacement for him a couple of years ago, or started to work towards a replacement for him, if you like. Kasumu could potentially be it, but I think playing them together, I think Kasumu will learn a lot from Jonathan Hogg.
Well, the question is, Matt, if you're playing with a back 5 like we did in the first half yesterday, do you need a Johnny Hogg in there as well? If you're going so flat with your defensive 5, you don't also need that defensive midfielder. I'd have Kasumu in instead of Hogg if that's kind of the way Daramo sees us playing going forward, because it just helps us break forward much quicker than anything Jonathan Hogg can do.
You do, but defensively, you need that on-field organizer as well, and I don't think we've got that either, because Kasumu's not got that in his makeup that we can visibly see. He might be a decent talker on the field that we just can't hear, but for me, Hogg makes not so much of a difference on the ball or chasing people. It's his organization and how he gets people, how he gets people where to stand and organizes that. He moves that team around really well, and that's probably not always evident. And when he's on the ball and you see him maybe shank a pass and you kind of sigh a little bit, but he gets everyone back into position immediately, and we're such a tougher team to break down when Hogg's in the midfield, whether he's doing the breaking down or not. It's I think that's got a sort of testament to him, in that he still has that effect, and he brings a better performance out of others around him. I think this Hogg, whether he's bollocking them or encouraging them, either way, he's doing that. But let's move on. So we moved on to do a Spaces show this week. So with what we thought we'd do is we'd get Tom and Jerry, or people who watch remotely, to maybe host a phone-in style show. And I thought what we could do is maybe have a caller of the week. And I don't think you two have listened or had a chance to listen to it yet, but I was doing it. So, and I'm going to give the Spaces caller of the week to Chris Green, because we had Tom and Jerry were I love saying Tom and Jerry. They hosted the show, and we had nobody who was willing to sort of stick the hand up and come on initially. And good old Chris was first up. And what I liked about Chris was not that he calls Darren Moore Darren Moore. I love that. And he what was good about the call was that he was quite happy to say, I thought we'd get thrashed. First half was rubbish, but I'm really pleased for second half. And he was able to give credit to Darren Moore for that second half performance, despite being a critic. And I thought that was really good. That there's not a lot of people, like Kosi says, there's not always people willing to sort of relent or bend on that. And Chris did. And so I thought it was a decent call. So well done, Chris. Caller of the week of Spaces. Whether we'll do it again just depends on whether more than 16 people turn up next time. So let us know if the timings don't work particularly well, or whether there's a better time to do that.
Random now. What do you think of the half-year of the season card prices? There were a lot of outrage about it, but again, I just don't know if it's purely because anything Huddersfield Town do at the moment is just fucking awful. But
who buys apart from Killer? Who buys a half-season ticket these days?
Yeah, cheers to that, Matt. Yeah, like I said, halfway through last season, I thought, what better way to waste my next 6 months by watching that? But then Warner came in and said it wasn't too bad. But I'm pretty sure last year were more expensive. Yeah. I think it more expensive than the half season ticket prices this year. So that is at least something.
Because it's a good point.
It's 180. Is it 180 quid the season card? I just wonder whether it was maybe a precursor to prices going up in the summer. I think Nagels and Edwards have dropped a few hints, haven't they, in meetings that the prices may need to go up because Town's commercial revenue needs to go up. And I don't know. They've got to be careful, haven't they, with how it's done? Because if they bang that up a couple of £100 on the back of what we're seeing now, people will just go, nah, not going, not happening, not buying it. I'll just pick and choose, and then it's hard to get them back, isn't it? Unless you're doing really well. So I think they've got to be careful and mindful of that. But on the other hand, to be fair, if they have a go in January and they bring some decent players in and say, look, we'll do the same again in the summer, but you've got to put your hand in your pocket as well, then I'd be happy to do that. It's just if they bring in more Florian Camberes in January and then say, right, your season ticket's going up to pay for it, I think a lot of people will be like, well, you can jump. But if the ambition matches, the price, then yeah, okay, I'll do it. I know a lot of people won't be able to afford it, and that's
Matt, it's a great point though, because I'm just trying to process it. So the season cards were
you
really
heard
cheap.
Florian Camberi, and you can't think of anything else now, can you?
The season cards were really cheap at the start with a new owner. So if you'd have got one there, you'd have got one there. The football's been absolutely dire, and the results have been dire. So why would you? So you'd be like, oh yeah, now I'll get one.
Yeah, what a Christmas present! Yeah, what a Christmas
it's a good
present.
point. I wonder how many they'd sell. 100, if that. It's a good point.
I don't think there'll be many. I don't think there'll be many, would there? No, I don't. I think if you're going to get a season card, you get one at the start of the season, unless like Killer, there's people move back into the area or students or something. But they've not really made a big song and dance about it either, have they? They kind of quietly slipped it in, didn't they? So I imagine that there's probably not expecting a big.
I'll tell you what made me sad now, Matt. I don't know if it was again, it's been a positive pod to be fair, but a bit of my heart was sunk when I read that. I mean, we knew it were happening, but the swimming pool just shutting in the gym at the stadium. It's almost like again, it's I don't know what's that. It's what are they called? Emperor's New Clothes. I can't remember what it was when I was a kid, but there used to
Emperor's
be
New Clothes.
No, there were.
You're on about that llama on Disney. Is that what you're on about?
And these crows used to come and peck away the diamonds out of this kind of statue, and then basically just fell down because he was so sad and that as well. I forgot. Someone will know what it is. I'll have to.
Absolutely no idea what that is.
Are
you thinking of Jungle Book?
No, it just reminds me of the stadium, mate. We had 2 bars. We had the swim pool. You know I know it was 30 years ago, but it just makes me so sad. And obviously, we talked about the Stephen Chicken thing before. We're losing not going to have a Lusty Town reporter. Just makes me sad, all this stuff though as well, mate. But it's just like bit by bit that it's just looking shit around there. We've got that. I think that's what I mean. It's just like the
roadblocks.
There's all repercussions though. There's repercussions to the footballing side of this, right? Because surely I'm not entirely sure, but you'd expect there'd be some sort of rental agreement for the pool, right? That goes towards KSDL, whatever is KDSL, that own the stadium that Town are 40% owners of, right?
So Davis Stadium Limited.
That's it. If the stadium isn't benefiting from the pool being rented out, that cost will have to be covered by the stadium company, which we own. So surely, if there's a bigger loss now based upon that, that'll affect Huddersfield Town Football Club, or is that just me adding up incorrect things and putting it together?
KSDL, it was Kirklees Active Leisure, wasn't it, Cal?
Yeah.
They ran it, and they were happy to. I think the council were happy for the gyms to lose money because they had a budget, didn't they, that would cover it. And unfortunately, that budget's now shrunk. Whether that changes going forward with a different government, I don't know. But I think they've now sort of said, well, we can't afford this surplus anymore, so therefore these are going to close because they run at a loss. And I think anybody who's a private investor will look at that and go, well, this loses £500,000 a year. I'm not putting money. It'd be suicide, wasn't it, from a business point of view, to go in there and think, oh, okay, we'll just put a couple of prices up here and there, because people won't come then, because they'll just go up to there's Huddersfield Leisure Centre in the town centre that they can go to for cheaper. So I don't think there's a future for that pool, to be honest. I find it difficult at that level of loss. I find it difficult to understand why Kevin Nagel or anybody who's a private investor would want to come in and save it, because for £500,000 a year for what? And like I say, if you put the prices up, are people going to stay? I don't know. But I think the sad thing about it is kids and schools use that pool and things like that. And there's a knock on, isn't there? Because I think the pool had all sorts of like social events and things, didn't they, for seniors and stuff? And then they all use the cafe afterwards, don't they? So the cafe is going to, the Legends Bar and what, that's all, like Kosi says, that's going to struggle now as well. And there's a new cinema opening in the town centre. Is that going to then affect what's down at the stadium? Because could it support too? And then without being incredibly negative, that there could be nothing down there by the next sort of 5 years if that all happens. And Costa would move, the cinema would go, rope walks shut. It's I mean, there's a decent space there for somebody who wants to do something, but it's tough, isn't it? Times are tough. So if there's no money to do it, there's no money. And I personally, I'm not a massive investor of anything, but I wouldn't be buying a business that loses $500,000 a year unless it's a football club and you're willing to bridge that as a hobby. But no one's gonna plug that, really, are they? No. There we go. Can't end on that miserable note, can we? So, I've got nothing else to talk about. I'm apart from to be quite relatively happy with that point.
No, I just remember these 3 games coming up. Obviously, it looked all were so near for a point. I just felt we needed something over the next 3, and we've got a point. Damage is not being done really because, like I said, Rotherham only got a point, and the others. So we got Sunderland, who was probably smiting off the back of a defeat yesterday. So I really couldn't call kind of thing how it's going to go. I think a lot's going to depend on who we have fit, and I think more won't be drawn, would he, on a few kind of injuries we might have, this and that and the other. So honestly, it's bad when you're thinking this, but because the only game's to win in it, but you take a point.
Yeah, I mean, the next 4 games we've got Sunderland and Swansea away, both away, and you look at that and you think, oh Christ, that's quite difficult, isn't it? This week coming up, Swansea's a place where I know we've had a few wins before, but I feel like it's a place where we struggle. I don't know whether I've got PTSD from Andy Robinson and Lee Trundle absolutely running rings round us, 15 years ago. I just think that's
a good game for them. They can't get going this season, Swansea. Just when they had a bad start, they won them 3 in a row, and then drawing yesterday. I think that's
inconsistent. Yeah. Well, we've also got Preston on the horizon as well, and they're inconsistent. They've dropped. They were good. They were in the top 6, and they've started to fall away a little bit. And I've seen Preston fans starting to question the manager and stuff. So, I think Town have played a lot of teams at the wrong time this year. They seem to be really unlucky with the timings of playing. You look at Norwich. Norwich were top of the league and flying when they beat us 4-0. Playing Leeds at that time wasn't great, and Birmingham just before they got rid of Eustace for Rooney and stuff. So I don't think they've fallen particularly well. And I'm looking at that Preston game going, I wonder if finally there's a game going to fall for us. And they'll probably pick up again and paste us now, I've said that. But, we've got Bristol City as well. And you look at those 4 games and we need to get 5 or 6 points in there, don't we, to sort of keep this up. It's a big ask, but it's a tough ask. Maybe 4 points, 4 or 5
We just have to do better. We just have to do better than teams below us already. And that's the reality of it, isn't it? We can accept this kind of football if we're getting a point. And Rotherham have only picked up a point. Nice one. And it's sad to be like this before Christmas, but that's what we're at. We know exactly what kind of football we're getting on Wednesday night. And I'm stupid enough to go. So I'll be there getting miserable about it. And then you know exactly what we're going to get Saturday as well. We're getting the same kind of game we had. The same kind of game I think we had the first half this weekend. But as long as the teams below us don't get what we get, I think we'll be happy enough, won't we? And it's just going to be like that until January comes.
There's a lot going on in January, isn't there? So it was Black Friday the other day, but I think it's going to be Black January, isn't it? If we're Town in the transfer market. So I think that's it for this week, guys. Unless there's any other business, I think we can do one, can't we? But decent point for Town this week, and hopefully more to come. So let's cheer the lads on at Sunderland.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, Who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.